Welcome, everybody to the Real Money Coach Show. I hope that you are having a fantastic day and a fantastic evening. We are 7 days from the election, and we've been talking about Project 2025. We've been going over that. We have a phenomenal guest that's going to be with us this evening. Her name is Diane Taylor. She's based out of Greenville, North Carolina, and we are certainly excited to have her. But as any good program, we have breaking news. We got breaking news that we need to take you to the remarks that are being done live right now by what I believe to be our next president of the United States. But y'all haven't followed protocol. Ain't nobody put it in the chat where you are watching from. Let me know that you're there, that you can hear me, and that everything is live. I see you guys are tuned in, but no one's put anything in the chat yet. Come on and put in the chat where you're watching from so that we can know that you hear us, because I see a few people there. And so if we could do that real quick, if somebody, Kimberly, thank you for letting me know. So what we're going to do right now, since we know that we're live, we got audio, we're going to take you to the comments by, thank you, Henry, for letting us know. And by the way, you all, we will be on the air next week, election week. And we do have Professor James Taylor from the University of San Francisco. He's a political science professor there. And we will be having an abbreviated show talking about the results of the election as they roll in. So right now, let's take over to hearing the comments from Vice President Kamala Harris.
I see it in the young people who are voting for the first time, who are determined to live free from gun violence and to protect our planet and to shape the world they inherit. I see it in the women who refuse to accept a future without reproductive freedom, and the men who support them. I see it in Republicans who have never voted for a Democrat before, but have put the Constitution of the United States over party. I've seen it in Americans different in many respects, but united in our pursuit of freedom, our belief in fairness and decency, and our faith in a better future. America, I know the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. I know it. And that's why I am in this race, to fight for the people, just like I always have. Nearly 250 years ago, America was born when we wrested freedom from a petty tyrant. Across the generations, Americans have preserved that freedom, expanded it, and in so doing, proved to the world that a government of, by, and for the people is strong and can endure. And those who came before us, the patriots at Normandy and Selma, Seneca Falls and Stonewall, on farmlands and factory floors, they did not struggle, sacrifice, and lay down their lives only to see us cede our fundamental freedoms. They didn't do that only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant. These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators. The United States of America is the greatest idea humanity ever devised. a nation big enough to encompass all our dreams, strong enough to withstand any fracture or fissure between us, and fearless enough to imagine a future of possibilities. So, America, let us reach for that future. Let us fight for this beautiful country we love. And in 7 days, we have the power, each of you has the power to turn the page and start writing the next chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. I thank you all. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Was a great way to kick off our show. Thank you, Henry, for being here. Timothy Day, thank you for being here as well. Let me do this. Let me bring on my co-host, Mrs. Michelle Mitchell, all the way from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, Tony, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
So we had a little impromptu video.
Yes,
Seeing
yes.
the remarks from Kamala Harris, and I'm excited about this election. I'm nervous about the election. There's a lot of different things that's going on.
Yeah.
What's going on in Kalamazoo before we get into all that?
Kalamazoo. Oh man, we had a above 70-degree day today. It was nearly
Really?
78 degrees, probably. Yeah.
Listen,
That don't happen here.
Hello, Alice Martin. Thank you for being here. Listen, Michelle, I was in Chicago over the weekend. You probably know that because you probably talked to my wife. It was cold. It was cold. It was cold in Chicago.
It was a little chilly.
We're not, North Carolina, we ain't getting this guy.
Oh my.
46 degrees in Charlotte feels a whole lot different than 46 in Chicago.
Yes, you are correct.
We had a great weekend, great conference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so just really good to see. What was so remarkable, and I'm got to do a social media post or something about it, but just to see that many people together that look like us, talking about investing, talking about wills, and talking about creating wealth and generational wealth and all these type of things. It was so powerful.
Wow.
And Lisa talked about how good the conference was, and so it's going to be back in Atlanta next year.
Okay.
So maybe the Mitchells and the Jacksons will meet up in Atlanta. And
yes, we can.
The Boyce Watkins Conference.
That's right.
The All Black National Conference, and so great time there. I do have a quick announcement. Your boy's gonna be honored as who's who in Black Charlotte, and so I was really tickled. I mean, I got that. I was like, wow, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Last week, I was supposed to be in Atlanta last week for the book launch of Master P's book.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that I wrote a chapter in. I skipped it, y'all. I'm gonna be honest with you. I skipped it.
You skipped it?
I skipped it. Listen, Michelle, I was like, that drive ain't happening. And then knowing that I had to go to Chicago later in the week. And so I didn't make it to the book launch, but sometimes you just gotta say, hey,
you gotta know what you can say no to.
Right.
You're in the book.
Right. And having control of your calendar, that's
absolutely.
So hello, Timothy Day.
Yeah.
Henry said he's watching all the way from Texas. So that's pretty awesome. Yes. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So I want to get into the discussion about what we just saw in terms of the political climate that we're in. And so we have a wonderful guest that's going to join us. Nate, I think we'll still do our couple commercials that we normally do if we can cue those up. And then when we come back, we will have our guests with us. Thank you all for your congratulations. I appreciate that. We will have, we will have our guest. Her name is Diane Taylor, based in Greenville, North Carolina. She's the founder of the full book service publishing company called Tailor Made Publishing. And I saw some of the things that's so interesting because they kind of specialize in children's books. And, Cameron's his book.
How is Cam's book coming?
Cameron's book is coming slowly but surely. We working on it. He's a busy guy. He's a busy guy.
Okay.
He's a busy guy, and I'm a busy guy, and so but we getting together, and so go Cameron. We really pulling for Cameron to make the basketball team. So yeah, so the 4th and 5th graders, and of course he's a 4th grader, so he's one of the younger kids. So, but our guest, she's a community advocate. Does a lot in terms of some of the things we've been talking about Project 2025 and those things. And she's also the chairperson of the Greenville Pitt County Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's previously director of substance abuse and prevention at Power of You, Inc. And so she's got a lot of accolades, great person. So I'm looking forward to having a wonderful conversation with her after we take a couple quick commercial breaks, I believe, Dante, and then we will go into and bring on our guests and have a conversation.
Take control of your finances today with The Real Money Coach. Our free financial wellness checkup offers personalized insights and strategies to secure your financial future. Don't miss out on the clarity and confidence you deserve. Visit www.therealmoneycoach.com now. That's www.therealmoneycoach.com right now to start your journey towards financial freedom. Your future self will thank you.
Do you have passion for your business but feel like your finances are falling short? Running a business takes more than a great idea. It takes a solid financial plan. Mitchell Consulting can help you turn your passion into profit with their financial advisory services. Get the financial guidance your business needs. Contact Mitchell Consulting to learn more about their passion to profit capabilities.
All right, Michelle, for those who may be listening by podcast, tell us how we can get a hold of Mitchell Consulting.
You can reach Mitchell Consulting at mitchellconsultingservice.com.
Awesome. And as you all know, you can reach me at therealmoneycoach.com. We want to encourage you to go to both of those websites, schedule your appointment.
Yes.
If your business needs a boost in its profit, Michelle is the person that can help you get there. And once you make the money, I'll show you what to do with it. So you live off of it.
That's right.
Under a bamboo tree with a drink with an umbrella in it, or whatever you desire your retirement to look like. So we got you covered on both ends. So without any further ado, let's bring on our special guest this evening, Miss Diane Taylor.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here. And as we were talking in the green room before this show started, I know that you're heavily involved in one of the campaigns. And so the fact that you took the time out to be with us tonight means a lot. And so what I'd like to do is start off just like having you share with our audience a little bit about your background and what you're even doing now in terms of your career and activism and all that good stuff.
Yes, well, thank you. I wear many hats, but they all boil down to being the change that I want to see. So I think that you have some people who like to talk about things that are going on, and then some people that like to do. And so I'm a doer. When there's a problem, I don't want to just sit around talking about it. I want to get active and figure out how we can have a solution that benefits particularly the Black community. I don't shy away from that. That is my concern. It's who I am. I'm a mother. I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son. So every cause that I give my all to really boils back down to making a better future for them. So right now, I have the pleasure of wearing two very important roles. One is I'm the campaign manager for North Carolina Court of Appeals Judge Carolyn Thompson, who we would love to see stay in her seat. She is the only African American female on the North Carolina Court of Appeals for the state of North Carolina and is on all of our ballots. And the Court of Appeals just plays a major role that most people don't even think about. But the two most powerful words we can say when we feel like we have not gotten a fair day in court is I appeal. Which means that it then goes up to the workhorse for the Supreme Court in our state, and that's the North Carolina Court of Appeals. So to me, helping her to keep her seat is vital to our democracy in North Carolina. We think about all of the policies that we would like to overturn. Well, those go to the Court of Appeals. Redistricting goes to the Court of Appeals, right? Land disputes go to the Court of Appeals. So for me, that's just a really important role. And then the second role is as the regional organizer in the eastern part of the state for Red, Wine, and Blue, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is really geared towards empowering communities, particularly women. Led organizations, trying to make sure that we know the power that we have year round, but particularly right now when we are getting ready in 7 days to elect, hopefully, our first African-American female president.
Well, I'm all for it. I hope that comes to fruition for sure. It's so interesting. I did not realize that you were the campaign manager for the judge, because it was so funny. We were just, my wife and I were driving somewhere, coming from somewhere, and I saw one of her signs, one of the yard signs here in Charlotte, and I was just reading it. And so, that's pretty awesome. Well, we hope to keep her on that seat. Definitely hope to keep her on that seat. So how is that campaign going? Is it?
It looks good. It looks good. Anytime you have disenfranchised communities running a statewide campaign, it's going to be an uphill battle. So from that perspective, as far as fundraising and things like that, we've done the best we can, and I'm really happy. One thing, though, that really troubles me is that 7 days before our election, with just one Saturday left for early voting, we still have about 60% of our state that has not voted. So 60% of North Carolinians have not cast their ballot yet, and that to me is troubling. And so I'd like to spend the next couple of days really encouraging people to not just vote themselves, but to fill their car up. If the car has 4 seats, then I need all 4 of them to be filled to go vote. So I pray that people understand what's at risk on this ballot and take it as seriously as they need to. This is not going to be a slam dunk race. And I mean that from, the president's office all the way down the ballot. It is not going to be a slam dunk. So we really have to work to get our people out. But when we go out, we win.
We win.
We fight.
When we win.
We win. Well, you know what? I really do. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think so often we don't think about those judge seats, both at the district level and even the state level and federal level, and et cetera, et cetera. And I know, Michelle is in Michigan, another battleground state for sure. And so I think it's just so important to talk about and to vote the down ballot as well. Anything else you want to kind of say about that in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, we got to remember that Sherry Beasley lost by 401 votes in our state. So, when you look at, we lost every judicial race in the last election, every one, and that was strategic but it also is the reason why we have so many disputes right now in our state, where they're throwing out hundreds of thousands of ballots, and all kinds of things that could be addressed if we had a balanced court. So just the importance of the judicial races, along with every other race. And, I like to say, go from the bottom up, start from the bottom and work your way back up. It's just really, really important. And it frightens me at how many of us don't take those races seriously. We had about a 45% drop off in our last election for individuals that started with the federal races and dropped off. They didn't vote for their local. Yeah. So we need those. We need those votes.
You tell me that they came in and they voted at the top of the ballot, but didn't vote all the way down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Really? And you know why? Because you have to do your research. And if you don't know who's on the ballot, then how can you cast your vote? So I encourage people, Google them. Google the names, get the sample ballot. That's what I spent my day Sunday doing. I am looking up every person that's on the ballot so I know who I'm voting for and what they stand for. So my ballot is sealed and it's been cast. But I had to diligently go through, because some of the names I was familiar with, but some obscure names I was not. So I had to do my due diligence and look them up. And here in Michigan, we have Vote 411, like vote411.org. And it tells you
their
what their
affiliations
positions are. Yeah.
And one of the things in Michigan is you can vote straight ticket.
You can vote straight ticket.
They don't do that. They don't do that in North Carolina.
Really?
Yeah, they don't do straight ticket. And I think that's a good thing in many ways. Because
it is, but also I think you need to be an informed voter.
Right.
One thing is on this year on the ballot, you will know who's a Democrat and who's a Republican. They have made the judicial races partisan, which they were not partisan in the past. And one would think, you think about judges and you want fairness and equity and all of those good things to, I know Judge Thompson always says, I don't get a red file or a blue file, right? I get a people file. However, it was very strategic for conservatives to want to put an R beside their name for their judges. So that was a strategy of theirs to make sure that their people voted. So now we have to utilize that for our benefit as much as possible.
Yeah, that's good, because I did notice that. And there's still some races that are nonpartisan. I don't know in America if there's really such thing as being nonpartisan. And so what was interesting too, you all, is that at the conference that I was just at, the Boyce Watkins conference, they had Cornel West's running mate. She was there on one of the panels. Very interesting. And her, Michelle, and Dr. Fraser, her and Dr. Fraser were like this, right? Because he was like, this has been tried before.
Yeah.
You're not, the reality is, and I understand and respect what you're doing, but you're not gonna win.
Yeah.
And so you're disrupting something and could cause issues by doing this and not being strategic with it just to get your message across. So the political environment is really, it's quite interesting this year.
It's hot out there. It's hot. Them streets are hot. It's hot.
It's hot out in these streets, right? In these voting streets. So it's interesting. And we took our grandson to vote with us. And so Cameron went in and I let him, do the ballot and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting too, because one of the races, I won't say which one, we'll know which one, but he asked me why I wasn't voting for the Black candidate. And so it gave me a good opportunity to share with them that we don't vote for someone just because they're Black.
That's right.
We don't vote for someone just because they're a Democrat. or
Right.
whatever side of the aisle you fall on, we got to know, to your point, Michelle and Diane, that we got to know who we're voting for and why. But the emphasis that I really wanted to make tonight is that if you have not voted, get out and vote. Go cast that vote. Here, I don't know when the end date is in
Saturday.
Michigan, but in North Carolina, it's Saturday, right?
Yes, I think it's the 1st.
Okay.
I think it is.
And here you can vote and register at the same time.
Yeah.
In early voting. Now, when the voting day comes, you can't do that. And
we can.
Yeah, we can't here. So, so it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know how as a campaign manager, how do you guys feel about like the polling and all that? I mean,
is it real? That's what I want to
know. I'll tell you this. I start out, initially she started campaigning before the primary. So in around February, I felt like polls were important to kind of help us strategize specific areas or to hone her message. But that's really about it. When you get to this point in the program, as I like to say, it's one of those things where I'm in this world and I don't do polls. So, you know what I mean? So, how many text messages do we get a day? How many, calls do we say stop? And I'm in it and I'm still like, stop. So from that perspective, I'm not quite sure. Depending on the candidate, I'm not sure how beneficial it is. But, as an African-American female candidate, I can tell you that I've put very little stock in the poll because we as a people just don't participate or have an opportunity to, frankly, to participate in polls at the same level.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. I thought, were you saying something?
No. I'm like, that's true. Like, we are all at the point where I'm tired of the commercials. I'm tired of the text messages. Let's just get this over now. If I think everyone has made their decision, you just need to go vote.
It's election fatigue at this point.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. Is it election fatigue? And will that election fatigue cause some people not to go to the polls?
Yes. And that's why when I see 7 days out and I can see 60% of North Carolinians not voting, that's what we hear. We hear like enough of it already. I'm over it already. And so people are starting to disengage. And that can cause problems because when that 60% doesn't show up to the polls, then we get what we get and don't have a fit, as my mama would say, So.
Well, on our show here, we've done a lot on Project 2025. And I just wonder if do you have any thoughts as it relates to Project 2025? We had a Sylvian Lake was on, and she was deep. I mean, she taught us a lot about that on a previous show. It'd be worth going back to YouTube and checking it out. But what's your thoughts on the Project 2025?
Well, it's one of those things where I tell people, it's been around for a long time. So, we are still catching up to a plan that when you look around us has already been implemented. A great deal of it has. 60% of that plan is already in action. We don't have to look that far, particularly here in North Carolina, to see the effects of it in our everyday life. Thousands of students lost scholarships at UNC last year when they cut DEI funding and departments. We had lots of brown and Black students lose thousands of dollars in scholarships. We have predominantly white institutions automatically, if they're associated with UNC, they don't have DEI departments anymore, departments of equity and inclusion. So you don't have to look far to see its effects. North Carolina, the battle that we've had in terms of Medicaid expansion. Well, Medicaid is on the ballot. It's on the ballot because in Project 2025, they want to cut that funding again. So here we are just getting hundreds of thousands of people access to Medicaid and yet going to potentially snatch it all away again. And it really disproportionately affects our community. And so I try to take a 944-page document and break it down as to what it means, for us every day. We have lots of relatives. I dare say that all of us have at least one relative that suffers from diabetes. And you think about them now having a cap on insulin of $35 a month. That was done under the Biden-Harris administration. Well, all of that goes away. The cap on that goes away. So now we then end up paying hundreds of dollars or being just at the discretion of insurance companies to be able to afford basic medication. And then when we talk about women's health right, and even men, we talk about health screenings and the fact that in Project 2025, that all goes away. The payment for it goes away, I should say. So you can get it, but you're going to have to pay for it, right? And so when we talk about prostate exams, when we talk about breast exams, all of the things that we know in our community more than anybody else, we really need. And all of that, the payments for those things go away. Right now, if you're over 40 and you have a history of breast cancer, you can go and get a mammogram in your family. But so when it's just so many things in our everyday life that it affects. The idea of not having Head Start. What? Who doesn't want to have Head Start? And I'm a little biased. I'm a Head Start baby. I'm a graduate. But I mean, just all of the different aspects of it. When I think about my mom, I'm kind of in that sandwich generation where I'm taking care of an elderly parent, but I also have teen kids. And you talking about taking away Social Security benefits, huh? And not only that it would affect, my mom's generation, but mine. I've been working a lot. I've been in these streets for a minute. You know what I mean?
We done paid a lot in the Social Security.
We done paid a lot in the Social Security. Right. Now you're trying to tell me that I won't be able to benefit at all from it, and then veteran benefits. My dad was a vet. And so the idea that people who have served our country wouldn't be able to go to the doctor and have that paid for is just extreme to me. So, I like to make sure people know that this is not a scare tactic, because we hear those terms, right? That this is just a scare tactic and we just want people to vote our way. No, I want people to vote their interest. And most of Project 2025 is not our interest. We were talking about the judges a little bit earlier. And even that, do you realize that Trump was able to put in more federal judges in his first 2 years than in 8 years of the Obama administration? In 2 years, he was able to put 12 federal judges into office. So these are things that, we really need to think about in terms of what it means to not fall in line when we talk about this election. We need to stop trying to fall in love with people and fall in line with the fact that the opposite is an extremism that does not work in our favor.
So very well said.
Yes.
Because it's just, when you start to go through some of that and that's what our other guests talked about. So much of it has been implemented. And I was having a conversation with someone today, and they did not realize that until Ronald Reagan, that Social Security was completely tax-free.
Yeah, that's right.
He implemented under his administration, implemented taxing people on their Social Security benefits. Mm-hmm. And we know that most of the time, many people in our community and other marginalized communities, that's where we have the majority of our retirement is coming from Social Security. Mm-hmm. And so if that goes away or it's reduced or something like that, then that's a whole nother ball game that we're going to have to deal with poverty.
Exactly. And the health disparities. One of the things I volunteer on is the board. On the board of trustees for ECU Health. And when I think about the health disparities that we as a disenfranchised community face, we're still battling HIV and AIDS. People kind of assume that this is all about reproductive health. Well, not necessarily. It's also about everyday health. The idea that we wouldn't have STD screenings when we still rank as a state in North Carolina. Anyway, I'm not sure about Michigan. I'm gonna have to look it up. But I know that here we still rank 12th highest for African American women in terms of testing positive for HIV. So this is not a time for us to play with not having screenings available and let everything. It'll be a cost. You can pay for whatever, but what they are trying to do is to privatize every aspect of what we currently have, and that privatization makes us lose as a community.
Even the prison system, even the penal system, private student loan privatization, and it's interesting to me how. Well, we know one of the big news items that came out last week was with the newspapers that would not endorse
my candidate. But go ahead. I'll digress.
That's all right. I think we hit a nerve. We hit a spot of importance. Let's put it that way. But it's that whole bullying and people are afraid of retaliation, and that makes this election even more important because that stuff is real and they know it's real, right? And
you raise an interesting point that I'm not sure that we have paid enough attention to. We've always been a country that allowed lawn signs, and you had neighbors that live next to each other and they may be supporting different candidates. This is a different atmosphere. This is an atmosphere where I'm in Duplin County wearing my Kamala shirt like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Right? When does that happen? Like, we are in a different atmosphere. And it's one that has caused a lot of fear mongering. It has caused individuals that want to be supportive of one party or another, frankly, to think twice about being open and honest and transparent about who they choose based on feeling safe. That to me is a sad time. When I have individuals that want to support financially, say they're going to vote, but scared to put a lawn sign out because they don't know what's going to happen to their home. That's a sad time to be in, but it's real.
Yeah.
It was a strategy and it worked.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things I do have a lot of respect for Governor Gretchen.
Yes.
She don't play with them,
Gretchen don't play.
And so but we need people who are willing to stand up and say enough is enough. I mean, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see that dynamics of it all, even if the race goes the way that we would like to see it go, the aftermath of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We know there's going to be aftermath. The state party has already lined up attorneys, knowing that regardless of the outcome, it ain't over. I mean, remember, McCory didn't want to leave he refused to get out of the mansion when he lost the election. So it's just progressively gotten worse. In the fact that, it's like, even when you win, you got to fight. So, to watch the state party have to come up with a defense for winning is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, it is. One of the things that has bothered me, and I don't know, you might know a little bit better about sanctuary cities and, this really demonizing of immigrants. Um,
Yeah,
and if you
it's
watch the
tough.
news in the commercials, you would think that every murder, every rape, everything violent that has violent crimes have been committed by immigrants. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to see some statistics of how many crimes were committed by non-immigrants compared
Yeah.
to immigrants, because that's all we see. Any thoughts about that from your perspective?
Well, I mean, he's great for material. I mean, Puerto Rico was just, sir, well, who are you calling trash? I mean, that to me was just unbelievable that you can. I'm like, they're a state, right?
Yeah. He
They're a
said the
state.
same thing about Detroit.
Right. He
Right. Oh,
did. Yeah.
Detroit was enacted a
Yeah.
total fool, right?
Right.
Right. So
So it's just bizarre to me. Of course, the statistics don't back up any of that rhetoric, but I will tell you that it is so important for us to engage our immigrants in this election. I know on the North Carolina ballot, this amendment to talk about deciding or describing what a citizen is dangerous. That is dangerous for citizenship.
some angles on there, Michelle. You look
Yeah, so the whole point of that is to leave it up to the legislature to decide what a citizen is, and that never works out well when when you want to legislate citizenship. So I tell
Right.
people, that's one of those amendments that kind of just snuck its way right onto our ballot, but will have detrimental effects, particularly for individuals who are born naturalized.
Mm-hmm.
So, right now, if they're born here, they vote here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what they are trying to do is to say, no, 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 you got to go through this process, whatever that looks like, before you can vote here. And that is definitely going to continue to disenfranchise,
Mm-hmm.
marginalized communities or Spanish-speaking communities or any other group. Frankly, it's a scary thought. It's Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
When you open something like that up for interpretation. And
wow.
it's anti-American, you
It
know?
is. We were built on immigrants, right? Everyone was an
Like,
immigrant.
listen, everybody came here as an immigrant either by will or force.
Right,
Right.
voluntary or not.
Or
Right.
We're all
right.
immigrants.
Yeah.
Right. So interesting. So let's lighten it up a little bit. So I've never been, I was thinking Greenville, South Carolina, but you're Greenville, North Carolina.
I'm Greenville
Tell
North.
me about Greenville. We have someone that just moved there that we know from Cincinnati, took a job with the university. So tell us, as being the chairperson of the Visitors Bureau, what reasons? Why should we come to Greenville to visit? I want to know.
Man, listen, there's a thousand reasons. There's a thousand reasons to come to Greenville. But in all seriousness, Greenville, North Carolina is strategically placed in eastern North Carolina, whereas we are close enough to the mountains, the beach. And so you have, yeah, so I'm an hour and a half away from the beach. I'm 90 minutes away from Raleigh. So it is strategically placed in the eastern part of the state. I can be in Virginia in an hour. We have tons of bike trails, lots of water, both inland and the ocean. One of the really cool things about being inland is we are the home of where the ocean also meets the other water. What do you call it? My brain is gone. But it's the only place where both of those two things meet. It's an interesting dynamic. It's about 45% African American, about 45% Caucasian, and the rest is a wonderful mix. It is known as the home of the Pirates, East Carolina University. So it's a college town to some respect. But we also have large industry. So our community college ranks in the top 10 in the state, Pitt Community College, and there's lots of different industry there. So lots of different things to do, from barbecue to breweries, you name it, we have it. So I always say I'm always going to toot the horn for Greenville, North Carolina.
Greenville, North Carolina. We're gonna have to make our way over there to Greenville,
Yes.
North Carolina, and check it out. We were in Fayetteville for the first time not too long ago because we've been in Charlotte about 10 years. So we haven't gotten over to that eastern side of the state often, but I do hear good things about Greenville. Now it all makes sense too, as we were talking about being that close to Raleigh, because if my map was all wrong, I was like, okay, now it makes sense.
Oh, that's right. Because you kept thinking, no, I should have been in Charlotte. No,
Right.
the other side, Greenville, North Carolina.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's in a perfect little pocket where we very rarely are affected negatively by storms because we are inland just enough, but close enough for a day trip to the beach and back home without a lot of issues. So yeah.
Awesome.
Love that.
So now we want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship that you have going, particularly tailor-made publishing. So tell us a little bit about tailor-made.
Yeah, so for 15 years now, I have had tailor-made publishing. I started it. I was a journalist by trade. I'm a broadcast journalist major, went to Morgan State University for my undergrad, went to ECU for my technical and professional writing degree. So I've always loved writing. Never quite thought about how a book gets on a shelf until I met a gentleman from Kinston, North Carolina, which is about 15 miles south of Greenville. And he was a Negro League baseball player by the name of Carl Long. Carl Long was the youngest Negro League baseball player to be recruited, which also meant he was the only one to play in a segregated and integrated league. And that's what made his story compelling to me. And I'm not a baseball fan, but I love stories. I think we all have one, and it's important for us to tell them. And he asked me to write his book. And after many years of saying, I don't write books, I write press releases, I finally did write his book. And then I asked him who was going to publish it. And he said, you are. I mean, because where do you go for a first time author to publish? But you know that, Tony. It was difficult then. So I decided to learn everything there was to learn about self-publishing. And as luck would have it, or the universe would have it, that book, as soon as I came off the press 4 hours before he met with President Barack Obama, and I met him on I-95 with 2 copies of his book, one for President Barack Obama and one for himself. And within 4 months, I had a full-fledged book publishing company.
Wow.
So it really happened just that fast. And although we publish particularly nonfiction Black stories, I found myself with 2 small children and not having children's books that reflected who they were. And so I made them. And then I quickly realized that this wasn't a challenge that we were just having here in North Carolina, but it was an international problem, because books, even in the motherland, were not reflective of the people that were reading them. And so my whole focus and niche became that of Black children's books, nonfiction Black children's books in particular.
Okay.
So how can we learn? How can we teach our children? How can we teach our children at the same time as entertaining them, at the same time as empowering them and uplifting them? We do that through books.
Yes.
I love it.
I love it.
Some of the books on the website, and love what I saw there. And I was like, oh yeah, this is neat. This is really needed, because when we grew up, particularly in Michigan, I don't know what it was like in other parts of the country. Well, you're from upstate New York, right?
Yeah.
So there weren't dolls, there weren't Kens, there weren't those things that look like us, right? And you got to think about what that does to your mind frame. One of the things that Cameron had said is the voter guides that were coming in the mail. He was like, why is there so many white people on it? He's like, I didn't notice that because his dentist is Black, his doctor's Black, his allergy doctor is a woman of color. I mean, he's used to seeing Black professionals where when we were growing up, I had a Black doctor, but that was it. That was it. There was no Black dentist, there was no Black eye doctor, none of those other things. And it's not, we have to support our own. And,
We do.
and
Unapologetically.
unapologetically. And that's one of the things I love about the Boyce Watkins things, right? Because it's B1, it's the name of his tribe, if you want to say that, which stands for Black First.
Yep.
And so, and it's like
there's a difference in where you live and that motto.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And but you know, it's Black first, but not Black only. And I think that's
right. I like that. Yeah.
You know, because we also don't want to create the opposite of that.
Right.
You don't know how to talk with other people and all that kind of stuff. Because my little goddaughter-in-law, she's the sweetest person.
I know she is.
And so, you know, we have to make sure that we're balanced, but also say, okay, we're going to support our own.
Right.
And so that's kind of.
And every other group gets to do that, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things I think as a journalist, it was important for me to tell real stories. And part of that is knowing that it is history. Our history is history. And so it really can't be disputed. And, you know, I have just as many white teachers interested in our literature as I do Black teachers. And the reason is because they didn't know it either. You know what I mean? So, you know, actual and factual doesn't go away, even with these book bans that they're trying to instill.
Well, I was just going to ask about the critical race theory and some of those things.
And most of the books are Black authors or Black content, Black or brown content. So it's not by accident. You know, and many of the school districts here, they've already taken out any books that have the word slavery in it, any books that have any kind of innuendo to LGBTQ plus from middle school and high school is gone in many of the school districts here. You know, to kind of bringing it full circle. That's why even the superintendent race to me is just extremely important because we got some stuff we need to undo. In order to remotely get back to where we were. The idea that my daughter at 15 years old has less rights in this country than my grandmother had is crazy to me.
Wow.
You know, and that's real. You know, that's real. Who among us would have thought that Roe versus Wade would have ever been overturned? I just would have never imagined, you know, but yet here we are.
So Diane, I do have this sense that you're simply not going to fade away after the election. You'll still be doing stuff and involved. So how could people, you know, kind of reach out? What type of ways, you know, supporting some of the initiatives and stuff that you're doing?
Yes, so TaylorMade is always the easiest way to get me. TaylorMadeNC.com that gives you access directly to our books, to me. Anytime you inbox that, it goes directly to my email, and we're always available. So that's the easiest way. But also, I have a pretty popular blog. We'll talk about that next time. It's called Chocolate Mother. And Chocolate Mother.
Next time.
Right.
We'll talk about it next time, right?
We'll talk about that one next time.
Drop Chocolate Mother and then say bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Right.
So on Instagram.
Chocolate Mother.
So Chocolate Mother, I started that when I had my children, and it's the journey, a real life journey of Black motherhood in the United States and what that looks like in all aspects, from you know, partnership to them growing, to the fears that are only specific to Black mamas in the U.S. I mean, we have a different road and journey, and very few of us, our stories get told about, you know, the idea that my son is 13. So I remember at like 9 saying, at what age will he not be cute anymore? To them,
right?
He's always going to be cute to me. I'm his mama, but there's a certain age, you know, and we don't know what that is. But I just know that one day my son is going to be looked at as a threat, and I don't know what that day is. That's a lot of trauma. That's heavy. It is a heavy load that our Caucasian sisters don't have. And so, you know, when we think about our husbands and our sons walking out of the door, the anxiety level that we have, that's a unique experience that we share that other people couldn't even imagine if we didn't tell them. And so I use that blog as an opportunity to share some of the things that the load and how heavy it is to be a Black mama in the United States. It's different.
It's different. It's different.
That's deep. I love that. I love that.
So on Instagram and Facebook and things like that, you'll see me as Chocolate Mother.
Chocolate Mother. All right. So y'all go out and follow Chocolate Mother on Instagram
Right.
and all that stuff. Love it. I'm glad we got to that. I mean,
Yeah.
that was I didn't have that in the bio. Come on. So I love it. Thank you for sharing. Y'all, it is election time. We want to remind you, if you have not early voted yet, make sure you do go early vote. Know when the deadline is. Don't wait till the last day, y'all. Because
Right.
if you get there and there's something, the ID or you're on a roll or something that's wrong, give yourself some time to fix it. And I love what Diane said. You got 4 seats in that car. Fill them
That's
up.
right.
Somebody's looking. Somebody needs a ride to the polls. And even
Mhm.
if you're disabled, in most of all the early voting polls here in North Carolina, there's curbside voting as well. So make sure you get out and vote. Support our judge, Thompson.
That's right, Judge Thompson.
Support
right.
Judge Thompson. Support. Make sure you vote all the way up and down the ballot. Make sure you
Yes.
get them all in. And we'll be here in some form or fashion next. Tuesday on election night. You're welcome to come back and join us if you want. But we're going to come back. We got James Taylor, Professor James Taylor, that's going to be here. And we're just going to see where we are at this time in the election at 8 o'clock. What time are we calling? 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
I mean, the polls close at 8, right?
Do they
Yes.
close at 8 or 7?
Well, here
8.
they close at 7. They might be 8 there. It depends on where
I
they
thought
are.
they closed at
They
7.
close at 7? Okay.
Here
Yeah.
they do.
So
It might be 8 where you are.
we're going to come on an hour after the polls. Maybe we'll do a little bit of what we did tonight, show a little bit of live broadcasts or whatever, and then we'll just, what's that?
I would like
And-
to be
and I
on
would-
in somewhere.
And I want people to go check your registration, y'all. Check your
Yes.
registration. They're kicking
Check your
people off the rolls on purpose. So here they can go to ncsbe.gov. Check your registration.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, thank you again for being on. Everyone, have a wonderful night, and make sure you go out and vote. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.